Hello everyone, today I've got another build video for you and it's a fantastic little build. It's a crit chance, crit damage skill hybrid build. We've been discussing this in streams recently and you guys and girls help me make it, and it's absolutely perfect. I love this build for all sorts, whether it be grinding the open world, farming summit, farming anything really, doing legendary missions. It is very good. It's an all-round build that can do any activity on the game, even countdown. More recently been using it in countdown. Now how I like to describe this build, it's kind of like, if you know me, you know I love perfect glass cannon and how hard that hits. This build kind of like splits the damage between your weapons and your skills quite evenly, which is what a hybrid is meant to do. But I don't know, I just like this more than I've kind of liked any other hybrid. I love how hard I am hitting with my weapons, and I love that the skills do a ton of damage too. I tested this on all 3 legendary missions and looked at the stats at the end of the game, and it was quite even across the board. Sometimes the skills were doing a little bit more damage than the weapons, but it was very even, which is kind of where I was aiming to get the build. So we're going to show you this build in full today. I'll show you how to make it for those who've seen me in stream and want to see how this is made. But before we do, please do hit like and share to support the video. Subscribe for more content from myself if you're new here today and you want to watch more Division 2 videos. But most importantly, we have a fantastic Division 2 community. You should definitely come and check it out before you leave this video. It's linked at the top of the video description. Go and click that before you leave. And here is the build. This is what it looks like. As I said, it's a fantastic little build. There's a couple of ways that you can build this, and we'll discuss it as we go, and it'll be each to their own, whatever you prefer, and I'll explain why I've gone with it the way I have. First of all, it's a specialization. You're definitely going to want to use the technician specialization. Make sure when you use this build, there's a perk on it where you can pick between skill damage and skill heals. You're going to want to choose skill damage for this build. The grenade, you can use whatever grenade you want. I got EMP on there because it's automatically selected with specialization, but I don't really use it. Use whatever grenade you want. But the primary weapon is quite important, and you're going to be wanting to use the capacitor. This works very well on the build. You can see the total damage there is 104.2k, which is quite good. That's going to be amplified as well with my glass cannon talent, which you'll have a look in a moment. But with the capacitor, you've got assault rifle damage, damage to armor, and health damage, and then you get the capacitance talent. With this, shooting enemies, build stacks to a cap of 40. Each stack grants 1.5% skill damage, and after 5 seconds, stacks decay 1 per second. For each skill tier on the build, you gain an additional 7.5% weapon damage. With the technician, there is 5 skill tiers on this build, with the option of going to 6 skill tiers with the TDI card custom in the 3rd slot. The secondary is a classic M1A. I've got rifle damage, critical hit damage, damage target out of cover, and I've got the talent in sync. This works very well on this build. I tend to use this a lot on this build, if I'm being honest with you, because the instinct talent is very good. What it does is hitting an enemy grants 15% skill damage for 5 seconds, and using a non-shield skill or damaging an enemy with a skill grants 15% weapon damage for 5 seconds. Damage increases are doubled while both buffs are active at the same time. So both of these weapons work tremendously on this build. Now, the actual gear pieces look like this, and this is where you can switch things about. You'll notice I've got this Wyvern mask here. This can be a little bit of a hard grind, because what you're trying to do here with this piece is get weapon damage rolled onto it. So you can do this with the Wyvern piece or one of the Empress pieces, but you're going to want to get critical hit chance and critical hit damage as attributes, so you can roll weapon damage on it. With this one piece Wyvern as well, we're getting 10% skill damage too, and all mods on the build are critical hit damage mods. So with that Wyvern piece there, moving on to the chest, we've got a Grupo Sombra chest piece. This for one piece gives 15% critical hit damage, and the rolls I've got on this on weapon damage, critical hit chance, critical hit damage, and glass cannon. They are dreadful. These need optimizing, and this build is going to be so much better once it is optimized. Just look at those rolls there, and a few others along the build. They're not actually too bad, but I went through everything in this game with this build, and it's only going to get better. Glass cannon is very important on the build. This works for your skills and your weapons. All damage you deal is amplified by 25%. All damage you take is amplified by 50%. If you're used to glass cannon, then you're going to be absolutely fine. If you're not, it can take a little bit of getting used to because of that extra damage you are taking. But once you got used to that, especially with your skills out as well, acting as kind of like decoys, it does make it a little bit easier. And this talent is an absolute must for the build. Now, I've got the waveform holster, the exotic waveform holster here. Now, this was discussed in stream, and a few people would have made this build differently and not used this. So I'll explain a different way you can do in a moment. But I like this because I feel like I'm getting a lot of weapon damage out of the build anyway. And with this, at least one of my skills is getting some extra damage at any given point. So it is giving me some extra skill damage one way or another. It comes with skill tier, skill damage, and skill aced, and the waveform holster has the talent alternating current. Basically, you generate a stack of 3% skill damage on one of your skills every second. It caps at 10 stacks. After 10 seconds at the cap, the stack transfers to your other skill. The process then repeats itself constantly, basically. So you've always got extra skill damage on one or more of the skills, because as it's counting down on one and counting up on the other, you'll have the extra damage across both. Once it's at max stack for 10 seconds, you got all of the damage on one, if that makes sense. So the debate about using this was to use a Coyote's Mask instead. So you'll notice I do have that option. If I come in here, I have another Wyvern holster there with critical hit chance and critical hit damage on. This only needs a skill tier though if I was to make this move instead of the weapon damage, because if I was to bring in a Coyote's Mask, it obviously has the weapon damage on it already with critical hit chance and critical hit damage. So the benefit of doing it that way instead is you'll get more crit hits, you'll get better chance as well, and you'll be giving your team critical hit chance and critical hit damage by landing shots. So it's definitely a good way of doing it, and I'd say if you're doing raids regular, it's probably the better way of doing it. But I've not really been using this build in raids a lot. I do many different roles, so I kept the waveform on. If I was going to use this build in raids a lot, I would definitely get the Coyotes on instead, and I'd lose that extra bit of skill damage that I get. Now, a third way of doing this, which I haven't got it set up for, is because I won't use it unless it was a solo build and I always run in a group, but you could go with the Memento backpack instead. So if you're going to do that, you'd throw the Memento backpack on, and instead of this Empress backpack, you go in Empress holster with crit hit damage and crit hit chance. But this way, if you're keeping a waveform holster, you'd keep this Empress International backpack. Again, it's got crit hit chance, crit hit damage on it. It comes with a skill tier, and you've got combined arms on. And I really like combined arms because it works very good for this build. Shooting an enemy increases total skill damage by 25% for 3 seconds. I am always shooting enemies, so I've constantly got that 25% skill damage buff, and after every bullet that hits, it refreshes to 3 seconds. So it is constant and it is consistent. It's a great talent. The other option I was thinking about was perfect combined arms. I would have had to use Hannah Yu for that, and we would have went 3 Hannah Yu pieces instead of 3 Empress pieces, as you can see, which I've gone with here. You can see I've got an Empress gloves, skill tier, crit hit chance, crit hit damage, and Empress knees, skill tier, crit hit chance, crit hit damage. If that was all Hannah Yu, I believe I got skill haste. I forgot what they are. I think it ends on weapon damage, to be fair. But what I liked about Empress is that you get skill health that we don't really use. You get 10% skill damage and 10% skill efficiency. Skill efficiency basically works for everything. It's going to give you health, haste, and damage, I believe. So I just felt I was going to get more skill damage out of the build with this piece. And if I went Hannah Yu, I would have had more weapon damage, even though the combined arms would have been 30%, I think, instead of 25% damage. But whichever way you go with, if you do go perfect combined arms on the Hannah Yu and go 3-piece Hannah Yu, that will still work nonetheless. And let me know how you find that if you do go that way. But that is the build. It's a fantastic little build. It's not too hard to farm at all. The hardest piece is probably the one piece where you got to roll weapon damage on. The waveform can be got from any targeted loot holster area. Just grind for that until it drops, and the build's quite easy to make. The skills that I use on this build is an assault turret and a striker drone. I throw the assault turret out away from me. I set the striker drone off. Basically throw them out as soon as I go into combat, and then I start using my capacitor on my classic M1A to do some mega damage as well. And it is such a good build to use. If we have a quick look at the stats before we end this video, you can see that I'm on 44.9% critical hit chance, and I'm getting 181.1% critical hit damage out of the build. And some of the numbers that I see at times are very, very high with my weapons, and the skills do a lot of damage as well. And that does bring us to the end of this video today. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you liked the build. Let me know what you think in the comments. I know loads of you have builds like this, so let me know how you run your critical hit chance, critical hit damage, skill hybrid. But I am in love. I'm not a fan of skill builds at all. I'm not going to lie, but this has been super fun using this. And I'm not going to delete it. I'm going to keep this build and use it for farming. I think it's great for solo farming as well, because the skills really do help you out, and you get to keep glass cannon on the build too. But that's the end of the video. Thank you again for watching. Don't forget to hit like and share to support the video. Subscribe if you're new here today for more Division content from myself. And before you leave now, just come and check out our community. It's linked at the top of the video description. I promise you won't regret it. Until next time, thank you for watching this. Stay safe and peace out.